A man tried to take my paid-for first-class seat, sneering, "You're young. You don't need it." When I refused to move, he called the flight attendant, smirking, "She's clearly in the wrong." Moments later, she checked my ticket and said, "Sir, your seat is in economy." His face went white as she added, "And now you're not flying at all." So, this happened about 6 months ago, and even now, I think about it and shake my head. I was flying from Seattle to Boston for work. I had just wrapped up a huge project that nearly fried my brain. I'd been working 12-hour days for weeks and barely slept the week before. My boss was actually the one who said, "Take a break. Go somewhere. Fly first class. Recharge." So I did. I used my own money. I didn't get bumped. I didn't use points. I paid for that seat outright, first class, seat 2A, by the window. It was a big deal for me. I don't fly like that. I'm usually stuck in the back of the plane, near the toilets, knees jammed into the seat in front of me. But not this time. This time was different. I got to the airport early, grabbed a coffee, went through security, and waited at the gate. When they called first class, I stood up with the other passengers, scanned my boarding pass, and walked onto the plane. I felt good. Like, maybe this break would actually help me breathe for a second. I found my seat. 2A, window. No one else was sitting next to me yet. I put my backpack in the overhead bin, sat down, and pulled out my noise-canceling headphones. I was about to put them on when this man, maybe mid-50s, graying hair, expensive-looking coat, comes up and stops in front of me. He gives me this look. You know the kind. Like he's already decided something about you. He doesn't say hello or ask a question. Just says, "You're in my seat." I blink and look down at my boarding pass. This is seat 2A, right? He nods like he's talking to a child. Yes, but I think you're confused. You're supposed to be in coach. I raise an eyebrow. No, I'm not. Now he smiles, but it's that smug kind of smile, like he's humoring me. "Sweetheart," he says, and that already sets off alarms in my head. "You're young. You don't need first class. Let someone older enjoy it." I'm stunned. I'm not kidding. I sat there, speechless for a second because I couldn't believe what he just said. Like I owed him the seat because I'm younger? Because he decided he deserved it more? I told him, calmly, I paid for this seat. This is my seat. Please find your own. His whole demeanor changed. He stopped smiling. "I'm trying to be nice about this," he snapped. "But you're clearly in the wrong." I held up my boarding pass. Seat 2A. First class. That's me. He scoffed, like I was lying. Like I was playing some game or trying to sneak into first class like a stowaway. Then, he does the thing I knew was coming. He flags down a flight attendant. She walks over, smiling. "Can I help you too?" "This young woman is in my seat," he says, loud enough for people around us to hear. He turns to me again, smug as ever. "Let's get this sorted, shall we?" The flight attendant nods. "Can I see both of your boarding passes, please?" I hand her mine. She checks it. Her eyes flick up to me and then back to the pass. Seat 2A, correct. The man, still standing there like he owns the plane, hands her his pass with this, watch this, expression on his face. She looks at his pass. Then she looks back at him. "Sir," she says, "your ticket says 18C. There's this silence. He stares at her like he doesn't understand. "No, that's not right. This is where I'm supposed to sit." "No, sir," she repeats. "Your assigned seat is 18C, which is in the economy cabin." I swear, the color drained from his face. Like, you could see the moment his brain caught up and realized he'd just embarrassed himself. She continues, calm but firm. "Also, trying to claim another passenger's seat isn't acceptable behavior. I'll have to speak to the captain." He starts stammering. It was just a misunderstanding. She didn't look like she belonged in first class. I thought. She holds up a hand. "I heard what you said, sir. And you've caused a disruption." He looks around. Other passengers are watching now. A guy 2 rows back is recording. The man's face goes red again, But this time it's not from arrogance, it's from shame. The flight attendant speaks into her radio. Can we have ground crew at the door? I need a passenger removed. I just sit there. I'm not smiling. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just stunned this is actually happening. He went from trying to humiliate me to being kicked off the flight. The guy tries to argue, but it's too late. Another airline employee comes down the aisle. The flight attendant points. This gentleman needs to deplane. He huffs, mutters something under his breath, grabs his carry-on, and storms off. The gate crew follows him out. The whole cabin is quiet. The flight attendant turns back to me and says softly, "Sorry you had to deal with that. Let me know if you need anything." I just nod. My hands are shaking a little, not gonna lie. We still hadn't taken off. So, you'd think that would be the end of it, right? But no. That was just the start of the weirdest, most exhausting flight of my life. About 20 minutes after the guy got booted off, we finally started taxiing. I was trying to settle down, earbuds in, watching the safety demo. But my brain was still stuck in what had just happened. I kept thinking, who does that? It was insane. I'd never been kicked out of anything in my life, let alone tried to take something someone else paid for. We take off, and maybe 20 minutes into the flight, the woman sitting across the aisle from me leans over. She's older, maybe late 60s, wearing a navy blazer and pearl earrings. She had that polished, stern vibe. She looks me straight in the eye and says, "That man is my husband." I blink. Okay, she crosses her arms. "You didn't have to escalate things the way you did. He's not a bad man. He just assumed you made a mistake." Now my heart's pounding again. Assumed? I said. He called me sweetheart and told me I didn't need the seat I paid for. She sighs like I'm exhausting her. Yes, but you could have just let it go. He's a frequent flyer. He's tired. It wasn't worth getting him kicked off the flight. I stare at her, completely stunned. Are you serious? He tried to steal my seat and then lied about it. She doesn't answer that. Just picks up her magazine and goes back to reading like we never spoke. I sit there for a minute, frozen. The nerve. I wasn't rude. I didn't shout. I just said no. And she somehow thought I should have given in because he's tired? I press the call button. The flight attendant comes over and I tell her what happened. Her expression hardens. She said that to you? I nod. She sighs, then whispers, she asked to be moved up from coach earlier. I told her no. I blink. So she was supposed to be in economy too? Yeah, the flight attendant says. She only got up here because of her husband's elite status, but she didn't have a first-class seat either. He got booted before we could check hers. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? She walks away for a second, comes back with her tablet, taps a few times, and then frowns. Yeah, she's supposed to be in 26B. Not first class. Not even premium economy. I glance at the woman. She's flipping through her magazine like she doesn't have a care in the world. The flight attendant leans down and whispers, "Want me to move her?" I shake my head. No. Let her sit here. I want her to know I know. The attendant nods and walks off. I could feel my pulse in my ears. I turn to look out the window, but now I'm tense again. I'm trying not to think about how that woman sat across from me, bold as anything, and tried to guilt me for not giving in to her entitled husband. And she was lying the whole time. She didn't even belong up here. But it gets weirder. Halfway through the flight, we hit turbulence. Not the light, bumpy kind. This one dropped us suddenly, like your stomach jumps into your throat kind. A few people yelped. The fasten seatbelt sign came back on, and a flight attendant announced over the intercom that service was suspended. The woman across from me was gripping her armrest. I noticed she kept glancing at me, like she wanted to say something but wasn't sure. And then she did. "I don't usually fly coach," she said, voice shaking a little. "He books all the travel. This was supposed to be a surprise trip. He told me we had first class. I didn't know until we boarded. I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure if it was a lie or the truth, and honestly, I was tired of games. I didn't mean to sound rude earlier, she added. I guess I was embarrassed. Still, I kept quiet. I wasn't about to comfort someone who earlier tried to make me feel guilty for not giving up something I bought. She fell silent again. We landed in Boston around 7 p.m. I waited for most people to get off the plane before I stood up. When I got to the baggage claim area, I spotted her again. She was alone. Her husband wasn't there. But then, just as I reached the carousel, security showed up. 2 TSA officers and 1 airport staffer approached me and asked for my ID. I froze. Is something wrong? I asked. The lead officer said, we received a report about an aggressive passenger who caused a disturbance in first class. I looked at him like he had 2 heads. Are you serious? He nodded. We just need to ask a few questions. Someone had reported me. My mind went straight to that woman. I pulled out my wallet with shaking hands and gave them my ID. My voice felt thin, but I stayed calm. You think I was the aggressive one? The TSA guy didn't respond right away. He just looked at his clipboard, then back at me. We're still checking. But we received a complaint. Female passenger. First class. Claimed you were confrontational and verbally abusive to her husband and her. It was like the ground shifted under me. She wasn't just done with the guilt trip and judgment. She doubled down and filed a false report. I glanced around. There were still people collecting their bags. The woman was standing about 20 feet away. Her eyes met mine, but she quickly looked away. She clutched her handbag tighter and walked in the opposite direction. I looked back at the officer. You can check with the flight attendants. Or the passenger who recorded it. There's a video. Her husband tried to take my seat. He got kicked off. She tried to guilt me. And now I'm being questioned? One of the officers gave me a nod like he half believed me. The other seemed unsure. Another man in a vest walked over. An airport employee, looked mid-30s, carrying a tablet. Are you the woman from seat 2A? He asked. Yeah. He tapped the screen. Flight crew logged the incident already. Said you stayed calm, didn't raise your voice, and followed all instructions. There's video from the plane cameras too. You're clear. Sorry about this. The officer handed back my ID. Thanks for cooperating. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Then the airport guy lowered his voice and said, here's the weird part. That guy? The husband? He didn't just get kicked off your flight. He's now banned from the airline. Apparently, he's tried pulling this trick before, seat switching, making scenes, trying to intimidate people. I was floored. This happened before? Yeah, he said, shaking his head. Couple complaints over the last year. Mostly women, mostly younger passengers. But this time, we had it all on video. He paused, checking over his notes again. Here's where it gets messy. After he was escorted off, he didn't leave. He stayed near the gate, arguing with staff. Had to be removed by airport police. His wife didn't get off the flight, which we thought was strange. We're putting it together now, but it looks like they planned the whole thing. She sneaks into first class, he causes a distraction, and maybe they think if they act entitled enough, no one questions them. My jaw was on the floor. They run a scam? Looks like it. It didn't work this time. You didn't move. So, they tried a new angle, turn it on you. But we've seen enough of these now to know better. He gave me a card and said if I wanted to file a formal complaint or statement, I could. But I honestly just wanted to get out of there. I grabbed my suitcase and left the airport still feeling like I had been punched in the gut. I checked into my hotel near Copley Square and tried to decompress, but I couldn't stop replaying it all in my head. The look on her face when she said, "You could have let it go." Like it was nothing. Like I was the problem. The next morning, I got a message on LinkedIn. No joke. It was from a woman I didn't know. Profile photo was of a golden retriever, not her face, but her name looked familiar. When I clicked on her profile, I realized she worked in HR for a law firm in Boston. She wrote, "Hi, I hope this isn't too forward, but I think I saw you on my husband's flight last night. He said there was a misunderstanding, but something felt off when he told me. He's done things like this before, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry if he did something inappropriate." My stomach turned. I replied cautiously, "If your husband is Name, then yes, there was a situation. But I'd prefer not to go into it." She replied again, "That's what I was afraid of. I'm really sorry. I think this is the last straw." And then she blocked me. Blocked me. Which was bizarre, but also telling. Now, here's the thing. I didn't know if she was the same woman from the plane. I didn't get the name of the seat-switching couple. But what were the odds? How would she have found me, unless the guy told her my name? Or unless she was using his account? Or unless he wasn't married to the woman on the plane? That's when the theory hit me like a train. What if they weren't married? What if she was a business partner or a travel scammer he worked with? Or even just some fling he was trying to impress? What if the LinkedIn wife was the real wife, and she had no idea what her husband had been up to? It made sense. The woman on the plane didn't act like a shocked, caring spouse when her husband got kicked off. She didn't argue, didn't ask to leave with him. She just stayed. Calm. Calculated. And suddenly, the way she approached me mid-flight felt different. Less like concern. More like damage control. The whole thing unraveled in my head like a movie. The lie, the scam, the fake charm, the guilt trip, the false report, and now, possibly, a second woman on the side. I saved screenshots of everything. I didn't know what I'd do with it all yet, but it felt like this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't sleep much the night after getting that LinkedIn message. I sat in my hotel room with all the lights on, phone in my hand, rereading every message, every comment on the video clip that had now started to spread online. Someone posted the video of the guy getting kicked off the flight, and even though you couldn't see my face clearly, people were definitely talking. Entitled man thinks he deserves young woman's first-class seat. Instant karma. Guy gets caught trying to scam his way into first class. Again. Somehow, someone found out his name. People were digging into him. He worked for a private investment firm. Or at least, he used to. Because by day 3, someone posted a screenshot from the firm's website. His profile was gone. I didn't celebrate that. Not yet. Then another message came in, this time on my personal email. I have no idea how she got it. But it was from the same woman who messaged me on LinkedIn. The real wife. Subject: Thank you. I needed the truth. The body of the email said, I watched the video. I know that woman. She works with him. They've been doing this for months. Fake upgrades, travel perks, pretending they got me booked and acting like victims. He always told me the airline made a mistake. I believed him. I was an idiot. Now? He's out of the house. I've contacted a lawyer. And his firm fired him. Apparently, this was the third complaint made against him by strangers. One of them was a solo traveler who was threatened by him after she refused to switch seats on an international flight. I'm humiliated. But at least I'm finally free of him. Thank you. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the screen. So yeah, he lost his job. His marriage, his access to the airline perks he bragged about. All because he thought he could bully a stranger out of a seat. But it didn't stop there. About a week later, I got a call from the airline. They said they were updating their internal policies to better handle incidents like mine. They wanted to include parts of my story in their training materials. With my permission, of course. I agreed, as long as they didn't use my name or personal details. Then they offered me something I didn't expect. A full refund on the flight. And a free round-trip first-class ticket to anywhere they fly. I said yes. But I picked somewhere random, Savannah, Georgia. Quiet, warm, far from the madness. I stayed there for a weekend. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just went. On my flight back, I sat in first class again. This time, next to a quiet older woman who offered me a butterscotch candy and didn't ask a single personal question. We both watched the clouds and said almost nothing. It was peaceful. No drama. No scams. No guilt trips. Just me, sitting in the seat I paid for. But here's the twist I didn't expect. 2 weeks later, I got called into my own company's HR department. Apparently, someone had filed a complaint against me. Anonymous. Said I was aggressive on a public flight, misrepresented what happened online, and tried to get someone fired. I was stunned. Are you kidding? You can see the video. You can read the flight crew report. HR looked uncomfortable. We're just required to look into it. So I handed them everything. My boarding pass. Screenshots. Email from the wife. The video. Even the LinkedIn messages. The complaint? Dropped. But HR made a note in my file anyway. Just for record keeping, they said. So yeah. Even when you're right, even when you stand up for yourself, someone out there might still try to spin it against you. That part sucked. That part stuck with me. And maybe I made a mistake too, sharing everything online. Feeding into the internet drama. Giving strangers something to dissect. Because once it was out there, I couldn't take it back. But I don't regret standing my ground. Not for 1 second. If I had moved out of guilt, if I let him take that seat, he would have done it again. To someone else. Maybe someone more afraid to say no. So, if you're ever in a situation where someone's looking at you like you don't belong, just remember, if you paid for your place, you earned it. Don't move just because someone tells you that you don't deserve to be where you are. Because sometimes, saying no is all it takes to make a liar trip over his own lies. And sometimes, justice does come at 35,000 feet.